The biggest heist in cryptocurrency history happened on March 29th, 2022. Over $600 million drained from the Ronin bridge. Now, what would be a reasonable time frame to notice you just lost $600 million? $600 million that wasn't yours, it didn't belong to you, but instead your customers. I'd say a couple of hours would be reasonable, right? Well, the intro to this video is actually a lie. The biggest heist in cryptocurrency history didn't happen on March 29th. That is when it was reported. It actually happened 6 days earlier on March 23rd, and nobody noticed. So, what is the Ronin bridge? How did this hack occur? Who was affected? And what will happen to these $600 million of ill-gotten gains? First, we must introduce the reason that Ronin exists. Axie Infinity, the largest play-to-earn cryptocurrency NFT game in existence. Axie Infinity allows users to purchase NFTs, build a team with those, and do battle with NPCs or players alike, including a breeding system and a ranked ladder that rewards players with cryptocurrency which they can then sell to make real money. The better you are at the game, the more cryptocurrency you're going to earn daily from playing. Axie Infinity has been in the headlines since the release for what many would call an evil pyramid scheme that exploits the poor. On the one hand, they've shown the ability for people in less economically developed countries to make a living from playing a video game. This is what they would like you to believe. On the other hand, the buying price to get started is so high that they will most likely have to join a scholarship program and give most of their profit to their boss, who owns the actual NFTs. The result is most of the players are from places like the Philippines, but most of the profit is not going to the players. This system was working well to start out. People in these less fortunate positions were making good money for playing a video game, and the advertisements of the benefits of play to earn had some brief merit. However, as the game matured and money stopped flowing in as quickly, the critical flaws were exposed. The players at the very bottom who needed the money the most were struggling to make even minimum wage in their country, even if they were some of the best players at the game skill-wise. At all times, the vast majority of profit was being made the further up the pyramid you went. The players at the top owned all of the Axies, and they were making money from their workers, and then if things started to go badly, they could just sell them and cash out, move on to something else. Axies at the peak of the game's popularity were selling for hundreds of dollars each, but since the crypto market downtrend and the proof that Axie's model is unlikely to be sustainable in the long term, the prices have since plummeted, as have the earnings of everybody involved. The next thing you need to understand for this video to make sense is a little bit about the blockchain ecosystem. There are many different blockchains out there: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Binance Smart Chain, etc, etc. The list goes on and on. Their ability to interact with each other is extremely limited. They're different technology, different code. There, however, exists workaround technologies and side chains that can allow for someone to transfer assets from one chain to another, and this is where Ronin comes in. Axie Infinity's developers Sky Mavis didn't want to build directly on the Ethereum network due to the high fees associated with the transactions. These are commonly referred to as gas fees, and you'll incur them whenever you do just about anything on the network. Their solution was to build their quote sidechain, which they called the Ronin Network. Essentially, this allowed for you to take your ETH, deposit it into the Ronin network via their bridge, and then interact with their marketplace without incurring such high usage fees. For the simplest example of how this would work, you can think of ETH as real-world money that you can move around however you like, and the Ronin network as a casino. You give them your money, they give you play chips, and they hold your money in their vault. When you are finished playing, you can take whatever chips you have back to the cashier and convert the chips back to the original currency that you can then go spend elsewhere. The Ronin network is controlled by 9 validator nodes, which control the authorization for all transactions. The network would require 5 of these 9 nodes to agree before any transactions are processed. This is their authority and security system. Sky Mavis controls 4 of these nodes, and the other 5 are controlled by third parties. This is done to maintain decentralization, so no one party has control over the whole network, and should, in theory, prevent what is referred to as a 51% attack, which entails a single entity controlling just over half the network themselves, and thus giving them the keys to the car. Should anyone ever control 51% of a protocol, they are then capable of doing literally anything that they want with it. You can likely see exactly where I'm going with this information. In November 2021, which was the height of both the cryptocurrency market and the Axie Infinity hype train, Sky Mavis, the developers, were struggling to deal with the bottleneck of free transactions due to the sheer number of users pouring in the door. Sky Mavis asked the Axie Infinity DAO, the decentralized autonomous organization whom controlled one of the 5 third-party validator nodes, to essentially give over their control temporarily. This would allow for their own 4 validators to sign transactions without waiting for third parties to agree, as they now had 5 nodes out of the 9. There's no other way to explain this other than the fact that this was a bypass of their own security system, as it essentially gave Sky Mavis control over the entire network. However, the Axie DAO agreed to this and the bottleneck of transactions were cleared before the agreement ended in the next month of December. Unfortunately, the Axie developers didn't remove part of the code they added to facilitate this agreement when that agreement ended. The allow list part of the contract was intact, which is what the hacker used to drain the entire Ronin Network treasury at a moment's notice. He gained access to the Sky Mavis 4 controlled nodes, and then the vulnerability they left in the contract to access the 5th, and thus had majority control of the network. In a single transaction, the hacker, now known on Etherscan simply as Ronin Bridge Exploiter, transferred himself 173,600 Ether, valued, as I write this right now, at $556 million. Though of course on the day it was worth more, and of course he also got away with $25 million USDC, which is a dollar-backed stablecoin. 1 USDC equals $1. This whole situation really shows how ridiculous this technology can be. Using that casino analogy again, this means that everyone who held any chips did so without knowing that the vault their money was held in was completely 100% empty. The chips they held were essentially now just plastic that had no underlying backing. They could look at their chips and say, I have X dollars value in my hand. However, when they tried to turn them into the cashier, they wouldn't be able to. The craziest part about all of this is because there is no checks and balances to see whether or not the cashier or the vault actually has money it's exchanging, they continued handing out chips for the next 6 days, meaning if the people trying to withdraw outpaced the people depositing new money, they would soon realize the money everyone thought was safe was in fact gone completely. Eventually though, the hack was discovered. 6 days later, it was noticed. In my opinion, a totally unreasonable time to be unaware that every penny of your customer's money had been stolen. The community now cheers that Sky Mavis have raised $150 million to help pay back customers, when they should in fact be condemning that they negligently allowed for $600+ million of their money to be taken in the first place. As for what has happened to the money and what will likely happen to the money going forward, well, the exploiter is of course taking advantage of my favorite part of cryptocurrency, Tornado.cash. They have moved money into many different wallets, hundreds or thousands of Ethereum at a time, equaling millions, tens of millions of dollars, and then use those wallets to either just hold the ETH or to start offloading to Tornado Cash, which is ostensibly a money laundering platform. The way Tornado Cash works, at least on surface level, is fairly simple. You give them the ETH you want to hide the origin of, and they give you a receipt. You wait as long as you're comfortable with, and the longer the better, then you use your receipt to receive random quantities of ETH to whichever wallets you like on the other side. This is to avoid the transactional history of the ETH mainnet that allows you to follow money in a very simple manner due to the immutable nature of the ledger. Essentially, you are erasing the history of the money and hoping you can use it without people realizing this came from a hack, as most centralized exchanges would freeze any assets to prevent you cashing them out into other currencies if they knew it was hacked currency. The wallet of the hacker still, however, contains over $500 million at the stage I'm recording this video, and it is very likely a large sum of this money winds up being stuck just due to the sheer volume and difficulty to clean without major risk to the hacker. There will be thousands of people trying to find out who orchestrated this attack, including law enforcement at every level. Typically, if you wish to launder a couple $1 million with Tornado Cash, you would still have to wait a while to hope sufficient currency had been tumbled in their system after your deposit to try and avoid detection. Now try doing that with $600 million, and it gets a little bit more complicated. Just for a historical fact, hacks like this where the prize was so great or recognizable, it would be commonplace for the hacker to negotiate the return of assets for a large prize due to these factors. For example, in the NFT world, when an expensive but recognizable NFT is stolen, it will more than likely just sit on an account forever or be returned, maybe ransomed. Much like in the real world of art theft, if you steal something everybody recognizes, who are you going to sell it to? Who would be stupid enough to buy verifiably stolen goods? What makes this even worse than the art theft is, of course, that everything is trackable on the blockchain, so you would see exactly who buys it, for how much, when they bought it, and then what they did with it. Based, however, on the hackers' constant daily attempt to wash as much of this money as possible and sending it off to as many storage wallets as they can, it does not appear that they have negotiating in mind. Each day, transactions fly out the wallet to the tune of millions of dollars, and despite the size of this catch, they seem unfazed by the monumental task of getting away with it. Now for a little bit of humor about just how ridiculous the cryptocurrency space is, I'll tell you the story about the blockchain Michael Burry. Michael Burry being the famous hedge fund manager whom had a movie made about his prediction of the stock market crash in the late 2000s. I present to you Kobe. Kobe noticed the hack before most other people, especially before the people in charge of keeping the money safe, and decided to short the governance token of Axie Infinity called AXS. Their assumption would be that as soon as people noticed all the money was gone and they were trading something of value for something that had no value at all, that had no backing anymore, the market would react to this and crash. They did this with high leverage, meaning the more money they would gain if it went down and the more money they would lose if it went up. Cryptocurrency, however, is so stupid that despite the circumstances, the price of AXS pumped from $50 to $73. This resulted in the position being liquidated and they lost all of their money. They thought they were smart using actual information that would move the market, but they are playing in the crypto market where nothing actually makes any sense, and losing $625 million overnight results in a 46% increase in price. Comedy aside, people lost their life savings, this hack, this exploit, whatever it is we're going to call it, and this is not even an uncommon occurrence. In the world of cryptocurrency, where code is considered to be law, any vulnerabilities in said code can result in comically insane situations, and over $500 million just vanishing overnight. I recently made a video about a DAO losing over $500,000 of investors' money because they simply didn't vote against a user who said, "I am now the treasury owner," and then took all the money out for himself when the vote passed. Is that even a crime? Either way, this is Web3, and it's apparently the future.